Everyone's talking about your latest photo, but none of them know I've memorized every detail like it's sacred art. They admire your beauty, but they don't realize that picture is my undoing. It made me fall all over again. Everyone's talking about how stunning you look, but I can't stand the thought of anyone else staring that long. They think it's just a photo, but to me, it's a love spell. You cast it, and I'm still trapped. Everyone's praising your glow, but I know that light. It's the same warmth that once healed me. They see your body, I see the soul behind it, the one that haunts my thoughts every night. Everyone's talking about how confident you look, but only I know how hard you fought to smile like that. They say you look beautiful, but to me, you look dangerous, like temptation wrapped in silence. Everyone's talking about your outfit, your pose, your eyes, but I'm just trying not to lose my mind over you. They see perfection. I see my biggest weakness, you. Everyone's talking about your picture, but none of them know it's driving me insane with desire and pride. They think you're flawless, but I know the cracks. And that's what makes you even more breathtaking. Everyone's obsessed with your photo, but they don't realize that I still see the person beneath the perfection. They talk about how good you look, but I know it's not just looks. It's energy, magnetic and uncontainable. Everyone's sharing your picture, but I'm guarding the memories that no camera could ever capture. They admire your beauty, but I feel your absence in every pixel of that photo. Everyone's talking about your glow up, but I'm still in awe of the person you were before the world noticed. They see your face, I see the love I lost and still crave in secret. Everyone's calling you beautiful, but they don't know that picture broke me in silence. They think it's just a photo, but to me, it's a ghost. I see you, but I can't touch you. Everyone's talking about your latest post, but I'm talking to the memories it brought back to life. They call you stunning, but I call you mine. Even if you've already moved on, everyone's talking about your photo, but I'm the one fighting tears because you look like a dream I can't have. They see beauty, I see pain, because I know the stories your eyes still whisper. Everyone's talking about how amazing you look, but I can't decide if I'm proud or jealous of how far you've come. They say you're glowing, but I know that glow. It's the light you found when you stopped needing me. Everyone's talking about your confidence, but that confidence came from finally walking away from everything that hurt you, including me. They say you're stunning, but I see the sadness you hide so gracefully. Everyone's talking about your beauty, but I'm haunted by the thought that someone else gets to see it up close now. They admire you, but I ache. I used to be the one behind that smile. Everyone's talking about your latest photo, but none of them realize how that picture feels like a goodbye to me. They see a goddess, I see a goodbye dressed in perfection. Everyone's talking about your power, but I know that strength was built from everything that broke you. They call you beautiful, I call you untouchable now. Everyone's talking about your photo, but I'm talking to my heart, begging it to stop reacting to your name. They see art. I see the artist who painted her healing with pain. Everyone's talking about your charm, but I know it's just your soul glowing through the cracks. They see beauty, I see bravery. You stood tall when everyone expected you to fall. Everyone's talking about your look, but no one knows it's a face that learned to smile after betrayal. They say you're glowing, but I see a woman reborn from ashes. Everyone's talking about your eyes, but they don't realize those eyes once looked at me with fire and forgiveness. They see you as perfect, but I know it took heartbreak to become that strong. Everyone's talking about how flawless you look, but your real beauty is how you made peace with your scars. They say you look confident, but I know you had to build that confidence from every piece that was broken. Everyone's talking about your photo, but I'm replaying our moments, the ones that no one else will ever know. They call it a picture, I call it proof that you no longer need anyone's validation. Everyone's talking about your beauty, but I'm talking to the ache it left in my chest. They see attraction, I see a story that still burns. Everyone's talking about your new energy, but I'm the one who remembers the fire that created it. They see glamour, I see the grit it took to reach that peace. Everyone's talking about your confidence, but I see your quiet revenge. You turned pain into power. They say you look happy, but I know that happiness came from finally choosing yourself. Everyone's talking about your smile, but I remember the nights you cried yourself into that glow. Everyone's talking about your latest photo, but none of them know the story behind that look in your eyes. It's not confidence, it's quiet heartbreak. Everyone's praising your beauty, but they don't realize that picture captured the exact moment you stopped pretending to be okay. They see your photo and think you're thriving, but I know you only smile like that when you're trying to hide the storm inside. Everyone's talking about your glow, but I know it's not from happiness. It's from learning to love yourself after breaking 1,000 times. Your latest photo has the whole world staring, but only I see the exhaustion in your eyes, the kind that comes from surviving too much. Everyone's obsessed with your beauty, but no one talks about how you had to rebuild that confidence from ruins. They call you stunning, but I call you strong, because that picture isn't just beauty, it's survival captured in pixels. Everyone's sharing your photo, but none of them know it's the smile you practiced in front of the mirror to hide your pain. They talk about your pose, your outfit, your glow, but I see the pain you buried under every layer of self-control. Everyone sees the light, but I remember the darkness you crawled through to find it. They think you're just photogenic, but that picture is your quiet rebellion against every person who made you feel small. Everyone's talking about your latest post, but none of them realize it's your silent way of saying, I'm finally free. They see confidence, I see courage. You smiled like that only after learning how to love yourself again. Everyone's talking about your eyes, but I know those eyes have cried oceans no one will ever see. That photo went viral, but only I know it's your way of saying, look at me now. I made it through hell. They love your look, but they don't know it's the same face that once begged the mirror to look different. Everyone's fascinated by your beauty, but they'll never know the nights you cried yourself into that strength. Your photo isn't just a picture, it's a declaration you're no longer the person they broke. Everyone's talking about your charm, but I see the healing in every curve of your smile. They see perfection. I see the masterpiece you built out of your pain. Everyone's talking about your glow, but that light was earned through heartbreak, through loss, through self-forgiveness. They think you're just pausing, but you're actually standing in the ruins of your past, looking breathtakingly alive. Everyone's talking about your confidence, but I remember the version of you that doubted every single thing about herself. They see the makeup, the outfit, the filter, but I see the girl who finally started loving the reflection. Everyone's obsessed with your beauty, but I'm obsessed with the strength it took to become her. They call it a hot photo, but I call it the moment you stopped letting other people define your worth. Everyone's talking about your body, but I'm in awe of your soul. It shines brighter than any camera flash ever could. They're talking about how you look, but I'm thinking about how far you've come. Everyone sees a beautiful photo. I see a battlefield you survived in silence. They're talking about your smile, but that smile was born out of breaking and rebuilding. Everyone's talking about your latest post, but only I know that photo is your quiet scream. I'm finally enough. They see a confident woman. I see the journey it took to get there. Everyone's talking about your beauty, but your power lies in your silence. How you don't explain, just evolve. They think it's just a picture, but to you, it's proof you didn't let pain ruin your softness. Everyone's talking about your look, but I'm thinking about how that look once hid tears no one noticed. They see a goddess, but I see the scars she turned into stars. Everyone's talking about your pose, but that's not posing. That's power disguised as peace. They think you posted for attention, but it's really a love letter to your own healing. Everyone's talking about your glow, but that glow came from burning bridges that no longer deserved you. They say you look different, but what they really mean is you finally chose yourself. Everyone's talking about your latest photo, but no one realizes you posted it to silence your past. They admire your confidence, but that photo is a monument to every time you were told you weren't enough. Everyone's talking about your beauty, but it's the resilience in your eyes that truly steals the show. They call it flawless, but your flaws are what make that picture divine. Everyone's talking about you now, but where were they when you were learning to breathe again? They see glamour, I see growth. Your photo isn't vanity, it's victory. Everyone's talking about your glow up, but no one knows it came from glowing through pain. They call it a post, but I call it your soft revenge. You're shining without saying a word.